Peace. Welcome to Brother Mike X Speaks. Tonight we're going to talk a little more about our history, and we've gone through some dark periods in our history. Some weeks ago I shot a clip called The Ongoing Legacy of American Slavery. Talked about how the divide and conquer techniques that were used to separate the black family, the male from the female, and to destabilize that bond, so that we could not enjoy a healthy family structure, and how it's still going on today, that a lot of those things that was done then are still impacting us today, and we've never, we still are divided. We're still not standing together, male with female, old with young, dark skin with light skin. There's still a division process going on. I recently got wind of a DVD called Slavery by Another Name, and I viewed this DVD last night, and wow, it describes a process. A lot of us have come to believe that, we were slaves, we were brought here to be slaves, and Abraham Lincoln freed us, and Congress enacted the 13th Amendment, and the 13th Amendment, granted us freedom. But in the 13th Amendment, there's a loophole. It says something, I'm going to summarize it, so don't get on me, those of y'all who's into constitutional amendments, and say, oh, that's not what it says exactly. I'm just going to summarize it. The 13th Amendment was enacted to outlaw slavery in the United States, and it says something to the effect that slavery shall be abolished, throughout, the country, except for in punishment of a crime where a subject is duly convicted. So if a subject is duly convicted of a crime, this loophole in the 13th Amendment says that you can basically reduce that person to slavery. So, the freedom that black people began to enjoy after, the Civil War, after the Emancipation Proclamation, after the 13th Amendment was enacted, it was short-lived. You had a few institutions, and I had a little bit of information about this, but I didn't know that it went as deep as this DVD describes it. I knew about the phenomenon called sharecropping. Booker T. Washington, in his book, Up From Slavery, he describes Booker T. Washington was, a famous black leader from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. He died in 1915. And he describes in his book, he was born about 8 years before slavery was officially abolished. And he describes a situation where, the guy on the big white horse, rides up, with basically like a scroll, and pronounces that slavery is officially over. And he describes how there was a big celebration that burst out amongst, the former slaves, or the former, people who had been enslaved. And they were celebrating and, hooping and hollering, the day, had finally came. And he said this went on for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then after that, he said that the celebration died down and there was like a somber mood, and everybody was looking at each other, and the realization had set in. And he said a little bit after that, they was going on up to the big house to ask Master for them to stay on, and many people would say, yo, why would they do that? Well, the only thing that they had ever been was slaves. They had been reduced from being human beings, that were able to make decisions for themselves and decide, where their destiny, would best take them, and what they would have to do to enjoy freedom, justice, and equality, And they didn't know how to be anything but that. So what they did is they went back to the slave master and they made deals with the slave masters, their former slave masters, I should say, to continue to do everything that they was doing on the plantation, to continue to plant the crops and till the land and do all of these things. And there was a pact that they made that when the crops came back, that they would split the proceeds. What they didn't know is that they were given advances. They were given advances as far as clothes, as far as food, as far as the seeds and things that they needed, the tools and all of the things that they needed, that they used to be given for free when they were slaves to do this work. Now they were going to be charged to use all of those things. And the huts that they used to live in for free while they were slaves, now they was going to be charged to be able, to live in those huts. And then when the crop came back, they wound up owing the slave master. Instead of being able to split the crop, they wound up owing the slave master. And now the slave master was able to say, the former slave master was able to say, you can't go nowhere until you pay me what you owe me. So then they would go into year 2. And they would go through the same process. And by year 2, they would owe even more. And so through that, they were able to institute chain gangs, and imprison a lot of these black people. And it became slavery part 2. And a lot of people don't really know about that. So when I watched this DVD last night, Slavery by Another Name, it went into talking about the black codes and the Jim Crow laws. And they made official, this is legal slavery that they enacted. They created laws to where, if they caught you just standing idly by on, by a tree or something, somebody could come up and arrest you, due to these black codes, these laws. And they created like an ongoing, legal institution of slavery where these people were imprisoned. And then they would hire out these people, who were in prison. They would hire them out to rich, industrious people who were building cities and building railroads and all of that type of thing. They would hire these people who had wrongfully been imprisoned. They would hire them out. And this process was going on, according to this DVD, from like the end of the Civil War, 1865, all the way up to World War II, and there were like many people. There were presidents who looked the other way, Woodrow Wilson, Teddy Roosevelt, a lot of these people that we think are, were democratic, Woodrow Wilson was supposed to be the one who first had the idea of building the United Nations, where the nations on this earth could find a way to come together and meet and discuss, how we can work together on this planet and unity and harmony and to spread democratic ideals around the globe. While he was talking about the United Nations, he was one of the most racist presidents that we've ever had, so this is like a powerful DVD. I hope that you'll get it. It's called Slavery by Another Name. And there's a companion book to this. There's a companion book by the same name, that I saw in Barnes and Nobles. And as a matter of fact, I ordered this DVD through Barnes and Nobles. The only thing, it's an enlightening DVD. It's a painful DVD to see how devious, man. A lot of the people, who ran, this government, how devious they were in striving to hold human beings down, talking out the side of their face, talking about freedom, justice, and equality and democratic ideals, but you're subjugating a race of people, to work for you for free, so that you can live wealthy. But these people are subject, to being lifelong slaves. And the whole system of them being imprisoned is created like a phenomenon where it's even going on today. Like this DVD takes it up to like World War II. And one of the things that I didn't like about it, and I guess, you know, it was done for the purpose, you know, for the main purpose. It was trying to show what was done in that time period. But that's still going on today. Like I was saying in one of the other clips on, you know, my YouTube channel, the prison system today is 70 to 80% black, you know, and brown, you know, Latino. You know, I work with young people. I've been working with young people for 20 years now. And one, you know, I work with young people in their capacity today in a non-secure detention center, you know, with young people who have been displaced from their family for various reasons. You know, some of them may have committed a crime, or some of them, you know, they're just wayward. You know, they hard-headed. They, you know, they don't want to listen. You know, they don't want to do the right thing, and their parent is having a hard time supervising them. So the court system may pull them out and place them in the program that I work in. And a lot of these young people, they feel like it's a rites of passage. You know, it's a rites of passage. It's like it's something that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be in prison, you know, as a black person. You know, I remember in a job, I was working in a group home some years ago, and I remember this young dude came to me one day, and he was talking about, and he was very passionate about it, you know. Yo, Mr. Henton, you think you can hold it down on Rikers? You know, and I'm looking at him like, what? You know, yo, can you hold it down on Rikers? And I'm like, yo, I'm like, yo, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm saying, could you hold it down on Rikers? And you can tell from the way he was asking that, with the passion behind it, that he really believed that to be black, like this is supposed to be a part of your life, that at some point in time, if you're black, especially if you're a man, you're supposed to end up in prison. So I finally answered him like, yo, young brother, I'm happy to say that I've learned enough from my life, and I have enough skills. I've been able to acquire enough skills where I don't really think that I'll ever have to see any parts of a prison, you know, and I don't want to see no prison, you know. But it goes back, that mindset to where it's so entrenched in some of our young brothers that prison is supposed to be a part of your life. It started with practices like this. And like I was saying, this DVD, it stops around World War II, 1940s. You know, the World War II officially ended like 1945, 1946. And it really didn't say too much about how you still have a prison system that is run, you know, and it's run and it's maintained primarily by black and brown bodies, you know, having problems, having issues, you know, not being afforded real opportunities, so they end up in the prison system. There's a lot of rich corporations even today that are using our black bodies, man, and, you know, for prison labor. So we're going to talk more on this. But please, by all means, if you can, get this DVD, Slavery by Another Name. So we'll talk more on this later. Peace.